Hey everybody, I am Brady Briggs. Welcome to another episode of the Combat Logic. What's up, guys? Today I got a pretty interesting topic of discussion, and that's what the UFC should do with their lightweight division. There are quite a few matchups that'd be super exciting to see. So I think we all need to see Charles Oliveira, the champion, even though he's not the champion. We need to see the UFC lightweight champion, Charles Oliveira, face Islam Makhachev next. I think that is the perfect fight to make. Though Islam's last two wins come over unranked guys. I mean, Dan Hooker was in the top 10 at the time, but he was on a skid, being finished in his last couple fights. Islam Makhachev is on a 10-fight win streak, while the champion, Charles Oliveira, is on an 11-fight win streak. So it's almost like Tony versus Khabib. Like, it's so close to that. Like, they were both on 12-fight win streaks in the UFC's lightweight division. Here we got a 10-fight win streak and an 11-fight win streak, the longest win streaks in the division right now. Okay, if there's one critique that fans could have had about Islam Makhachev in the past, it's that he wasn't much of a finisher. But dude, the last time he'd fought for this time frame was September 2019, okay, over in Abu Dhabi. After that, he took a year and a half off with injuries and failed fight bookings, that just, he signed to fight someone and then it got canceled. That happened with Rafael Dos Anjos a number of times. But he returned in 2021, a year and a half later, to go 3-0 with 3 finishes, all 3 via submission. So right there, you can't really critique him for not being a finisher anymore. And then he followed that up with a first-round TKO of Bobby Green, who, though, again, isn't one of the very best in the world. He's a really good fighter that's had quite a remarkable career resurgence as of late. Bobby Green, I don't know, man. He's retired a couple times because of shitty decisions that didn't go his way. Well, let's think about it. Since losing to Francisco Trinaldo, again, in a fight he could have won, Drakkar Klose, the fight right before that, he could have won. Like, dude, he beat Clay Guida, Lando Venata, and Alan Patrick in 2020, and then he finished off 2020 with a loss to Thiago Moises, which I thought he won. I really did. I thought he won that fight. I thought he should have went 4-0 in 2020. Then he starts off 2021 fighting Rafael Fiziev. Again, I scored the fight for Fiziev, but it was a very close fight. It took place entirely on the feet. Fiziev is a 39-8 pro kickboxing champion. He knocked out Brad Riddell, who's 59-8 in pro kickboxing in his last fight. Bobby Green went toe-to-toe with him on the feet and did very well. He then came back and knocked out Ali Quinta, beat Nasrat Haqparast, and, that was leading into his Islam Makhachev fight. So he was 5-2 in his last 7. Honestly, he could have been 6-1 or 7-0 in his last 7. And Islam made it look so fucking easy. Nonetheless, Islam's on a 4-fight win streak, or a 4-fight finish streak right now. I'm sorry. And a 10-fight win streak, while Charles Oliveira is on an 11-fight win streak with 10 finishes. The only guy he couldn't finish in that time is Tony Ferguson. And if he had 5 more seconds in that first round, he would have got that armbar. So I think it's pretty obvious that this is the next fight to make. Okay, so we got Islam versus Do Bronx. Paula Ball, Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor. Chandler is multi-time Bellator lightweight champ. Conor McGregor is a champ with both Cage Warriors and the UFC. Chandler has gone 2-2 since coming over to the UFC. After knocking out Dan Hooker, he lost his next 2 fights. Well, he nearly beat Charles Oliveira. He had an incredibly dominant first round against him. Some people even scored at 10-8. And then he almost knocked Gagey out more than once. So in those 2 losses, he came very close to winning both fights. And then he came back and just absolutely freaking starched Tony Ferguson. And Conor McGregor has gone 0-2 over his last 2, in both of his last 2 fights to Dustin Poirier. And before that, his last win is Donald Cerrone at 170 pounds. Like, we all thought lightweight was the perfect weight class for Conor McGregor. And he's gone 1-3 in the division. which is just crazy to me. Like, I never would have expected. But that's what happens when you box Floyd Mayweather, make $80 million in a night. It's kind of hard to wake up and get punched and kicked in your fucking face every day when you wake up in silk sheets with $100 million in the bank. It just changed him, and I knew it was going to. Man, like, Conor was so special, and I don't know. I'd love to see him return. I'd love to see him fight Michael Chandler. That's a really great fight. Both world champions, both incredibly explosive, both have tons of power. Both are, like, Chandler's got the wrestling that Conor doesn't have, obviously, but Conor's shot selection is just second to none in the sport. And the thing is, though, he hasn't, that left cross is one of the most dangerous punches in the sport, but considering he hasn't evolved, he hasn't really added setups to it. Like, he still throws the same setups that he always did, and it's not working for him quite as much anymore. Meanwhile, Chandler he hits hard as fuck. He might be the hardest hitter at lightweight. I'd say it's between him, Poirier, and Gagey. He's so good at switching stances in the middle of his strikes. He's really good. Like, dude, remember when he knocked out Dan Hooker? Dan Hooker's a pro kickboxer, for you that don't know. He set it up with a cross to the body, and then he switched stances and do a left hook right up top. And it was beautiful, man. Like, both guys striking is so incredible. Man, this would be such a wicked fight. Dustin Poirier, who's next for him? How about Nate Diaz? This is a fight they tried to make at UFC 230, and it was scrapped for, fuck, I don't even remember why it didn't happen. But, dude, Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz, could you imagine this fight at 155 or 170? Same with Chandler and Conor. That could happen at 170 or 155. I could really give a fuck. It's a similar fight at both divisions. I think they're both in a little bit better shape at 155, but honestly, I think they both walk around at about 180. It'd probably be best if they only cut 10 pounds. Like, nonetheless, Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz. Poirier showed he's evolved quite a lot in that Conor McGregor rematch with the leg kicks, and that's something that he could target against Diaz. But Diaz has such long arms. Like, he's got like a 4 or 5 inch reach advantage on Poirier. Both are two of the better boxers in the sport, and both have black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, though I think we'd all agree Nate's is a little bit better. Nate Diaz is the type of guy that has the potential to beat Charles Oliveira, for instance, but then loses someone that's unranked. Poirier and Diaz, what a wicked fight that would be. And then we got Justin Gagey. Who does Justin Gagey fight? Well, people want to see Islam fight Bonille Daryush before he gets the title shot. That's just going to force the Bronx out of action for a little while. I'd rather not see that. So why not Justin Gagey and Bonille Daryush? That's a wicked fight. Daryush is so underrated, man. His wrestling is so good. His jiu-jitsu is even better. His stand-up has gotten dangerous. And we all know what Justin Gagey brings to the table. That's my first set of matchups. I got 3 or 4 of them here. The next one, about Justin Gagey versus Conor McGregor. Justin Gagey is 1-2 over his last 3. Conor McGregor is 0-2 over his last 2, 1-3 over his last 4. Both 2 of the most dangerous strikers in the entire sport. Conor's straight punches could definitely split the guard of Gagey, for sure, and it could hurt him badly. But Gagey's leg kicks and his pressure, if he can survive long enough, like if he can survive past the first round, honestly, like Conor's got a little more than 5 minutes of fight in him. But against someone like Gagey, if he can't finish him in 5 minutes, I don't think he would beat him. But chances are he could finish him in those 5 minutes. And then chances are he couldn't, and Gagey really fucks him up. Like, that would be such a great fight. Then we got Nate Diaz and Michael Chandler, which is a really, really good fight, too. This would probably happen at 170 because Nate is done cutting to 55, as we've seen over the last several years. But, dude, why not? This is a wicked fucking fight. Like, Diaz, again, his boxing and jiu-jitsu is just incredible. But he's not the best athlete, I'll be honest. And Michael Chandler is an absolute stud athlete. But that don't mean, like, dude, Nate's beat a lot of really good athletes before. Don't get it mixed. That would be a really great fight. Dustin Poirier versus Bonille Daryush. Who wouldn't want to see that? And then we got Do Bronx and Islam. I guess I kept that one the same here. Let's switch it up a little bit and go. I remember when, man, the fucking scales, dude. The reason Charles Oliveira isn't currently the official UFC lightweight champion is because he weighed in at 155 and a half. You're not given a 1 pound allowance for title fights. Funnily enough, I learned that when Nate Diaz fought Ben Henderson for the lightweight title too. He weighed in at 155.6, and I was like, sweet, they both made weight, and then they said he missed. He's like, what the fuck? And then, you know, that's when I learned. That was back in like 2012. Nonetheless, Do Bronx misses weight by half a pound and had to forfeit the belt. Well, Norma Dumont is the only other fighter that missed weight that night, and she also missed by half a pound. There are a number of fighters that said they weighed in half a pound more than they weighed at the hotel scales. There's something fucked about that. Nonetheless, I saw a bunch of memes of Dana White and Conor McGregor. It's like a picture of them each laughing, and it's like, we all know what this means, so Conor gets thrown into the title picture. That's what the implication was. Well, even though Conor's on a 2-fight losing streak, if you want Islam Makhachev to fight one more time, why not make Conor and Charles Oliveira? Obviously, Conor doesn't deserve it, but this would be a really, really great fight too. And Conor has a really high likelihood of knocking Oliveira out. Oliveira has a really high likelihood of beating Conor anywhere. Even though Conor don't deserve it, I think we would all pay to see that. This one really excites me. Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler. Now, Chandler came out and said he doesn't want to fight Poirier because Poirier dismissed him once he came over to the UFC, saying he didn't deserve to be there. He didn't deserve to be in the position that he was anyways. Like, who gives a shit? Just make the fight. Like, both of these guys are two of the hardest hitters in the division. They're both knockout artists. They both have good ground games. Like, why not, dude? It's such a great fight. And then Islam versus Daryush, obviously. That's the fight that they also tried to put together a couple times for Islam that fell through. This would be a really telling fight for both parties. And then we got Nate Diaz and Justin Gagey. Again, who wouldn't want to see this? Now, Diaz would be susceptible to leg kicks, but just like Gagey versus Conor, Gagey would be susceptible to the straight punches of Diaz because he's got really long arms and really great boxing. Like, who doesn't want to see that? All right, I got another return fight for Conor. How about Rafael Dos Anjos? He's still ranked in the top 10. He's actually ranked higher than Conor McGregor is right now. And this is another fight that was scheduled that we never got to see. It was supposed to be a title fight like 5-6 years ago. Well, why not put it together now? And then we got Islam versus Conor. Again, if Conor returns, he doesn't get Dos Anjos. Why not put him in there with Islam? Like, I wouldn't say he deserves this fight either, but it'd kind of be like Conor versus Khabib too, kind of. Not really. Like, Islam is a different fighter than Khabib. His striking is much different. His wrestling, pure wrestling, is a little better. Ask any of their teammates. His overall grappling, pretty damn similar, I'd say. He does his ground and pound isn't as vicious, but other than that, he's pretty damn similar to Khabib. Who wouldn't want to see him and Conor? Again, who wouldn't want to see Gagey versus Poirier too? Go back and watch that first fight. It's one of the best fights you'll ever see. It's one of the most dominant fights you'll ever see too, with the one dominating losing in the end. Good man. Justin Gagey beat the fucking shit out of Dustin Poirier that night, and then ended up getting caught. And yeah, he's a little bit different of a fighter now, though. I'd really love to see that rematch. And then last one I got is Nate Diaz versus Vicente Lucay up at 170 pounds. No, actually, it's the second to last one. Nate Diaz and Vicente Lucay would be such a sick fight. Nate wants one more fight. He's got one more fight left on his contract. He wants to go box Jake Paul, or he wants to fight elsewhere. So give him his last fight. Give him a banger of a fight. And Vicente Lucay would bring that. And so would Matt Brown, even though Matt Brown's not quite in the position. But could you imagine either Diaz versus Matt Brown? Like, it would be such a sick fight. And I guess the last one would be Dustin Poirier versus Colby Covington, because he has come out and said he doesn't really want to fight him. He doesn't want to help Colby make money. But if that's the only name that the UFC is going to give him until the end of the year, or prior to the end of the year, rather, then he'll take it. And Colby called for this fight after he lost to Usman the second time. I think we'd all be interested to see this, too. Even though a couple of these fights would happen up at 170 pounds, I think it's more of a lightweight contender, lightweight title picture. And, yeah, who do you want to see get matched up next? Like, there are so many different ways that this matchmaking game could go here. I appreciate y'all for watching. Thank you. Have a good one. Hey! 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 I was down, but now I'm up. Being rich really got me bugged. 100K knows not enough. My bad man fall in love. Run up on God.
make it past 27 without killing myself.